Good evening, I'm Stephanie Seacos. It's Thursday, July 2nd. This is CTV News at 6. Tonight, suspicious deaths, the latest on the investigation into the deaths of 2 men in Nova Scotia. Then, lighting up more than the sky, Canada Day fireworks are being blamed for a grass fire near Moncton.
Heat warnings continue into Friday for the Maritimes. I'll have when some relief can be expected coming up.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Stephanie Seacos.
Thanks for joining us. Todd Battis is off tonight. It's official. The hot, muggy summer weather has arrived in the Maritimes. It felt like 40 in some parts of the region with the humidity today, and it had everyone looking at ways to beat the heat. CTV's Avery McRae was one of them.
It's feeling like summer in Sussex, and what better way to beat the heat than with some foam fun?
How much fun is it?
A lot, like really fun.
How do you cool down?
Go in the splash pad or the foam.
Temperatures in Sussex hit over 30 degrees today and felt closer to 40 with the humidity. Even for folks keeping cool under the water, the effects are being felt.
How hard is it to have fun when it's so hot outside?
Very hard. Very, very hard. Just makes me feel kind of like on fire.
It's really hard because you have to watch the sun and everything, but it's really great because there's lots of shade around here.
But not everyone has the option to hide from the heat. Like road worker Kyla McCarty, who says just a few minutes of work can be challenging.
I mean, I've had better days, but it's going okay. Getting lots of water on us and just trying to stay out of the heat when we can.
We tend to feel the impacts of these heat waves a little bit more intensely than the general population.
While the high heat can have impacts on everyone, the conditions can be particularly challenging for those living with a lung condition. NB Lung President Melanie Langeal says in New Brunswick, that's about 1 in 5 people.
If you don't get a break from the heat, that puts a lot of stress on your body. If you're already living with a chronic condition, your body is already dealing with a lot of stress. So it's stress on top of stress.
The body can cool itself off naturally, and fans can help expedite that process. But experts warn when the temperatures are so warm, they don't always give off the desired effect.
When the temperature of the air is above the temperature of your body, of your skin, then the first mechanism, the one of convection, doesn't work anymore. It actually harm you because it's warming you up.
Stephanie, looking ahead in the forecast, it appears the hot, humid days are just getting started. So in the weeks ahead, the best thing people can do to keep themselves cool is simply staying hydrated by drinking lots of water. Stephanie.
Thanks, Avery. CTV's Avery McRae trying to beat the heat in Sussex, New Brunswick. Now, there's a live look at downtown Charlottetown this evening where it is 26 degrees at this hour. And it's raining right now. Let's get our first look at the forecast. And for that, we go to CTV meteorologist Kaylin Mitchell. And so on top of the heat we've been dealing with today, you've also been tracking some storms.
Right, because hot and humid air near the surface is fuel for thunderstorms. If it gets lifted up and starts that convection going, and because of the high level of heat and humidity, some of those thunderstorms have become particularly strong in the Maritimes today. There were some downpours and lots of lightning with some early morning thunderstorms in parts of Nova Scotia. Brought in some rainfall amounts of around 40 to 60 millimeters for a few communities within the span of about a couple of hours. And then a similar line of very strong thunderstorms with a lot of heavy downpours made its way out of the northeast of New Brunswick and into the southeast of the province and parts of Prince Edward Island. Now, over the last hour, that line of thunderstorms has weakened. It's beginning to break up a little bit, and we're seeing what was left of it kind of falling in the form of that more moderate, light to moderate rainfall at Charlottetown at the moment. But there are still a few thunderstorms popping up along that line, now a little bit further towards the west, including one just to the south of Fredericton. So conditions are still primed for this evening to see a few more thunderstorms fire off. And that's why we still have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect by Environment Canada. It's out for New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and around the Northumberland shoreline of Cumberland and Colchester counties, as well as Pictou County in Nova Scotia. If any thunderstorms do develop in your area, along with lightning, which is dangerous at any time, they could bring in some downpours because of all the humid air feeding into them. So that'll be an ongoing situation, something to watch for. There will be a chance of some isolated thunderstorms in the Maritimes tomorrow as well. And then, of course, the big thing that most everybody was feeling is the heat and humidity. And here's a look at some current temperatures. We're moving into the first part of this evening, and a lot of communities are still in the high 20s and low 30s. Fredericton hit 35 degrees for today. It's just cooled over the last hour, down to around 34 now. And then there's the mugginess in the air as well. So humidex values making it feel even hotter than that, into the mid to high 30s and in some cases low 40s. And because we're expecting similar conditions for tomorrow, really peaking with the heat and humidity on both Thursday and coming up tomorrow for Friday, these heat warnings are expected to continue on. They're out for most of New Brunswick except around the Bay of Fundy coastline, where there's a little bit of an onshore wind off the Bay of Fundy waters. They're out for Prince Edward Island, and they're out for most of Nova Scotia except for Cape Breton, where temperatures were a little bit more moderate for today. Although Cape Breton, the temperatures are coming up in the forecast for tomorrow. I expect there will be some low 30s for parts of Cape Breton on Friday, but we'll get into those details when I'm back just a little bit later on. Stephanie.
Thanks, Kaylin, and we'll see you in about 20 minutes for that. 2 men are dead after a boating accident on an Annapolis Valley lake. It happened on Aylesford Lake yesterday just before 5 in the evening. 5 men were in the boat when the surface conditions of the water changed and 2 passengers were thrown from the vessel. A nearby boater found 1 man in the water. The 70-year-old man from Aylesford was pronounced dead at the scene. A 58-year-old man from Aylesford was found dead today by search teams. The 3 men who remained in the boat were not injured. A man from Wallace, Nova Scotia has also died in a boating accident in Cumberland County. It happened off of Oak Island in the Northumberland Strait Tuesday around 10:30 p.m. 5 people were on a boat that ran aground near the island. A 24-year-old man was thrown from the vessel. He died a short time later. The operator of the boat, a 19-year-old Wallace Station man, was arrested and has since been released pending further investigation. Fredericton's police chief is providing an update 1 week after announcing charges against a former police officer who died later in the week. Former Constable Andrew Savoy was charged last week with breach of trust, perjury, and uttering forged documents. He resigned in January after the force began an investigation. Last Thursday, the Fredericton Police Force announced he had died, but did not provide any more information about his death. Police say they have done a thorough review of cases that may be impacted.
I wouldn't rule out the possibility of an additional case being impacted. At this point in time, I'm not aware of any. But should that change, we'll certainly be coming out and advising the public.
He did not provide any more information about the status of the investigation or the charges, saying the Crown is best equipped to answer that. A Nova Scotia woman who murdered her 12-year-old daughter in 2008 has had her day parole extended. The Parole Board of Canada has extended Penny Boudreau's day parole for another 6 months. She was originally approved last December. Boudreau pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in her daughter's death. Carissa's body was found on the banks of the LaHave River after a 2-week search. There are several conditions attached to the decision. She must reside in a halfway house, report any relationships with men to authorities, and stay away from certain members of the victim's family. 7 months after the release of a review into an evidentiary issue that led to the stay in murder charges against 5 people, Fredericton Police Chief Gary Forward says progress is on track. The independent review did not comment on the nature of the error and found though the force exhibited professionalism and responsibility, it struggled to manage more complex files. Since its release, the force has set a staff sergeant to oversee the implementation of recommendations. Forward says they're on track to have the first 10 recommendations, including hiring civilian case management information system specialists and implementing more training, completed by October. On our website tonight, police in New Brunswick are trying to identify 2 men who allegedly drove a car into the Charlotte River. For that story and more, visit ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Nova Scotia RCMP are still investigating the deaths of 2 men in Fall River on Monday. 3 days later, the cause of death is still unknown, and police say the case is suspicious in nature. CTV's Vanessa Wright has this update.
Police are still piecing together what happened at a home on this street Monday afternoon.
RCMP Halifax Regional Detachment responded to a person who was believed to be deceased at a home on Lincolnshire Drive, and that's in Fall River. Officers attended and located a deceased male inside the residence, and upon further searching, they found another deceased male as well inside the residence.
Both victims, police say, were found in different parts of the home. RCMP confirmed they both lived at the residence and that the person who made the call also lives there. Now, the cause and manner of death is still unknown, which is what RCMP say makes this case suspicious. They are working alongside the province's medical examiner to determine that. Carbon monoxide poisoning has been ruled out in this case. RCMP are not asking for the public's assistance, and no details about the victims have been released.
Not at this time. There will be an update provided once we have that cause and manner of death.
Vanessa Wright, CTV News, Fall River, Nova Scotia.
Gas prices are predicted to climb in Nova Scotia tonight as the Nova Scotia Energy Board investigates how it calculates its clean fuel adjuster. That adjuster currently adds 9 cents to the price per liter of gasoline and 10 cents to the price of diesel. But starting with tonight's midnight price adjustment, more than 3 cents will be tacked onto those rates due to the investigation. The Energy Board says the amount could change weekly depending on the market. The interim order comes following an application from the Canadian Fuels Association asking the board to investigate the methodology. It argues it's no longer reflective of what suppliers face to comply with clean fuel regulations. All of this heat we're experiencing means a provincial fire ban is in place for parts of New Brunswick, including the Greater Moncton area. And while last night's fireworks display did go as scheduled, there was a problem. CTV's Derek Haggett explains.
You can clearly see the flames during last night's Canada Day fireworks celebration. A small grass fire on the marsh of the Petitcodiac River that took about an hour to put out. A provincial burn ban was in place, but fire chiefs from Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe met in advance and made a team decision.
And we did have a meeting yesterday afternoon, and certainly we're aware of the conditions. But for us, it's a matter of assessing the risk and deciding if we have the appropriate risk mitigation measures in place, which we deemed that we did.
However, fireworks displays in the communities of Hillsborough and Alma were postponed due to the province's fire ban.
In a lot of municipalities, of course, there's provisions not to have people just randomly firing off fireworks in their backyard because, yes, there is always a high inherent risk of fires occurring in relationship to fireworks when you have embers and stuff dropping on the ground and no control over where those land.
A spokesperson for the City of Moncton says all 3 fire chiefs felt like the fireworks display could go ahead safely given the resources that were in place and taking into account last night's conditions. The province says representatives from each community did reach out for advice before the evening event. Category 1 burning applies to things such as campfires or small brush fires, but not fireworks.
So in Riverview, there's no language that speaks directly to the relationship of fireworks in relationship to the fire ban that's published by the province.
True says it's common for fires to be caused by fireworks, so it's always important to have a plan in place. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Riverview, New Brunswick.
There are 2 designated encampments in the Halifax Regional Municipality, and according to those living in them, they are less busy this summer. CTV's Emma Comby spoke with a few individuals living outside and an organization that supports them, especially in this heat.
TJ McKay has lived at this homeless encampment off of Green Road in Dartmouth for the past 3 years. She says every summer, new faces appear here.
There has been a few more tents again this year, like I've predicted. It is quite a bit quieter than any other summer.
Despite new people, McKay says there are fewer people overall, around 20 living here.
I'm not who I was when I come out here, because this field does change you big time.
Mike Branwall has also lived here off and on for 3 years.
I was homeless off and on for like 15 years. Getting into rooming houses and stuff, it's the same thing, no matter where you go. everybody inundated.
He says shelters don't work for him, so the outdoors are his only option. Despite safety being a concern, the heat is also a worry.
The heat is bothersome, right? And it is. I mean, it's really bad, actually. It's going to get worse.
We do have power now. We have little fans in our tents for our campers. But the fans, when it gets into the 30s like they're supposed to in the next couple days, it's concerning.
The Nova Scotia government supplies a case of water to each person here and an extra case to those with pets. The outhouses are flushed here twice a week and garbage bins dumped once a week. As for additional supports, Souls Harbor Rescue Mission stops by to check in.
What we're doing is going into encampments to make sure that people are looked after, safe, and doing well emotionally.
Souls Harbor in Halifax serves around 200 people a day. It offers clothing and meals, but the heat only increases the work.
We have hydration stations at all our locations. We're working on passing out water bottles. We have a partnership with Labatt's for emergency water in cans.
For those like McKay living outside, she just wants affordable housing, as her goal is to get out of here. Emma Convey, CTV News, Dartmouth.
Still to come, astrophysicist Rob Thacker will join us to talk about satellites and why the sheer number of them in our skies is creating problems. Plus, we'll head to Lake Bannock and Dartmouth to check in on Canoe 26 taking place there this week. Also, still ahead, the Swifties focus their gaze on New York City.
I'm ABC's Perry Russum in New York. It could be the wedding of the summer happening tonight at Madison Square Garden. That story coming up.
This is your Campfire Conditions Report brought to you by Pine Acres RV, where customers become friends. In the province of New Brunswick, there are some counties where you are currently not allowed to have a campfire. That includes Gloucester, Northumberland, Kent, Westmoreland, Albert, as well as Kings counties. In much of the rest of the province, you're allowed to have a campfire between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., except in Restigouche County and in St. John County, where you're permitted to have a campfire anytime. For the province of Nova Scotia, most in the province are allowed to have a campfire between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. There's a few exceptions. Shelburne County in the southwest and for Cape Breton, where campfires are permitted between 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. And for Prince Edward Island, campfires are currently allowed, but domestic brush burning limited to the hours of 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. for both Prince and Kings County. In Queens County, you can have domestic brush burning between 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. The next update from the provinces to those provincial restrictions will be at 2 p.m. on July 3rd.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The world's best juniors and under 23 paddlers are one step closer to the podium tonight. Day 2 of the Canoe Sprint World Championships at Lake Bannock featured semifinal racing as athletes battle for spots in the finals. CTV's Hafsa Arif continues her coverage.
The race is getting faster and the margin for error is getting smaller. Day 2 of the Canoe 26 championships have been about survival and making it to the finals.
We've had quite a mix of the federations getting through, but we've had quite a number of Canadians advance straight through to the A finals.
With many members of the Team Canada training on these waters, coaches say they're racing with a home course advantage.
All these athletes that we have on this team have raced at this event before and have raced on this course before. And that's like the one of the strengths that we have, that we've been here. We know how the weather is.
During Canada Day, the event saw crowds of up to 4,000 spectators.
So you got so many Canadians actually cheering for Canada, which we don't usually get internationally.
That support stretches beyond the finish line. Across from the course, residents at a nearby condo lined their building with the flags of every country competing this week. A gesture organizers say has welcomed people coming from abroad.
Really a large turnout, which was incredibly exciting. Right from the first race at 9 a.m., there was tons of Canadians, some German fans, Brazilian fans, and they were cheering right away.
The championships have also brought heavier traffic. Roads in the area remain closed for the event.
Down Prince Albert Road, it's definitely a central artery for those commuting into Halifax, but it was compounded a little bit by some construction on one of those detour routes. So we're hoping that tomorrow is a little bit better.
The competition is just getting started. The finals are tomorrow, with organizers expecting the biggest turnout of the week to be this weekend. Steph?
Thanks, Hafsa. That's CTV's Hafsa Arif at Lake Bannock again tonight. Now to the most anticipated wedding of the year. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are expected to get married this weekend in New York City. The festivities are beginning tonight at Madison Square Garden. ABC's Perry Russum has those details.
The countdown is on to what could be the wedding of the summer. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, one of the most famous couples in the world, rumored to be getting married at the most famous arena in the world, Madison Square Garden. Today, forklifts carrying heavy cargo kept under wraps. Black SUV seen driving in and out of the loading dock. So this is the loading dock where we've seen supplies brought in all week. We know permits have been filed to shut down streets around MSG. This is for both cars and pedestrians. Sources say the first event will be tonight at 6 p.m. 100 guests are expected. A second event is tomorrow with a cocktail hour starting at 4 p.m. Around 1,000 guests are expected.
I mean, it's definitely a one-of-a-kind sort of thing. I don't know that anybody's ever done it.
The pop star's fans are still trying to figure out whether the wedding ceremony is really happening here or not.
I definitely thought that you weren't going to hear about it until after it happened. It's weird that we kind of know that it's going to happen beforehand, but no, she'll definitely take the spotlight for it, that's for sure.
And sources say there are some rules, no phones allowed for guests, security, or workers, and they're also going to have some canopies up protecting people as they arrive away from the view of cameras. Perry Russum, ABC News, New York.
Still ahead tonight on The Scene, we'll get a look at this year's Nova Scotia International Tattoo. But next, more heat is on the way. Kaylin has the latest on thunder shower activity and a look ahead to tomorrow's heat. That's next. There's a live look at Antigonish this evening where it is still 28 degrees, looking a little bit overcast. So perhaps that's helping a little bit with that heat, but my goodness, it's nearly 6:30 and it is almost 30 degrees still.
Yes, regardless, for most of the Maritimes tonight, it is going to be very warm and muggy all night long, and that, of course, can make things a little bit more uncomfortable for sleeping. Still low chance that Antigonish could have a little bit of a shower move through a little bit later on this evening. That would be left of what was left of that cluster of thunderstorms that made its way out of northeastern areas of New Brunswick earlier today, at one point producing a tremendous amount of lightning as well as some downpours.
Such a mix.
Yes,
of
it
conditions.
is. Well, a lot of times when we get this unusual heat and humidity, because this is above what we typically get for the Maritimes, it does create a little bit more of an unstable environment where there's a higher chance of getting those pop-up showers and thunderstorms during the day. Let's take a look, speaking of those thunderstorms, what's going on radar and satellite for this evening. So you can see some coverage of some showers right now around Prince Edward Island, then into southern areas of New Brunswick. We're just to the south of Fredericton. They have developed into a few small thunderstorms, and certainly a risk there could be some downpours with those, as well as the lightning. Generally speaking, a lot of the thunderstorm activity should be coming to an end as we make our way through this evening and we lose daytime heating. But there is a low chance of some overnight thunderstorms drifting into central areas of Nova Scotia and even Halifax County overnight. Low chance, 10 to 20% chance there might be a little thunderstorm that drifts in. That would be what's left of that action that's going on in southern areas of New Brunswick right now. Now, because this evening conditions are still primed for some thunderstorm activity, we have a continuing severe thunderstorm watch out for most of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and in Nova Scotia around coastal areas of Colchester, Cumberland County, and in Pictou County. Taking a look at our forecast timeline for cloud cover and precipitation. There's that area of showers and still maybe a few thunderstorms, and then a couple of thunderstorms sitting just to the south of Fredericton. And we can follow that along as we make our way towards and after midnight, and it does drift towards Nova Scotia. As we take a look at our timeline in the overnight hours, it's going to be partly cloudy conditions with fog patches developing, and that's how we'll start the day on Friday. And then as we move from Friday morning into Friday afternoon, we can expect generally mostly sunny to a mix of sun and cloud, very hot and humid. And then afternoon to early evening, that's when we'll have a chance of a couple pop-up showers and thunderstorms in the region. Now, the risk for thunderstorms for tomorrow includes the province of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, northern, central, and eastern areas of Nova Scotia. Taking a look at our winds in the forecast for tonight, away from any thunderstorms, winds are mostly going to be out of the west and southwest. becoming lighter as we head towards and after midnight. And then in the forecast for tomorrow, it's mostly a westerly wind blowing across the Maritimes that will have some gusts between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Now, low temperatures in the forecast for tonight aren't really going to be all that low. Most of them will be in the range of around 16 to 20 degrees, and considering the level of humidity in the air, when you take into account the humidex, many parts of the Maritimes will feel well into the 20s basically all night long. And then high temperatures in the forecast for tomorrow. Once again, it is going to be hot and humid. We are peaking with the heat today and tomorrow, generally in the region. So the highs in northern areas of New Brunswick, high 20s into the low 30s, could be near 34 for Miramichi. Fredericton tomorrow with a high temperature near 33 degrees. It'll even be near 30 for Grand Manan and St. John on Friday, 33 for Moncton in the southeast. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures. We'll see in the high 20s and low 30s, near 31 in the forecast, both Summerside and Charlottetown. In Cape Breton tomorrow, hotter than it was today. Many communities with highs in the high 20s and low 30s. Low 30s around the north shore of mainland Nova Scotia. On the eastern shore, coastal areas between 24 and 29 degrees. But as soon as you get away from that, near coastal zone, those high temperatures are going to be coming up to low 30s, as they will be around Truro for tomorrow, Enfield, even the city centers, Halifax and Dartmouth near 30. Near 32 in the Annapolis Valley, very hot and humid there. On the south shore of Nova Scotia, most of the high temperatures between 30 and 33 degrees. A little bit cooler at Yarmouth, right down by the coast, closer to 25. Taking a look at the humidity over the next several days, that is expected to come down a little bit through the weekend. So that should provide us a bit of relief in the Maritimes. And temperatures as well are expected to gradually come down a little bit through the weekend. For New Brunswick, there should be a little bit more of a comfortable level on Sunday. And then it's basically more summer heat in the forecast for the first part of next week, maybe only cooling on Wednesday with a chance of some showers. And for Nova Scotia in the forecast, it's still hot and humid on Saturday with a chance of a shower, low risk of a thunderstorm. And then a little bit cooler for the end of the weekend and the start of next week. I mean, not cool, but more moderate temperatures is what I should say. Then some high temperatures in the low 20s on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week with a mix of sun and cloud and a chance of showers on Thursday. And for Prince Edward Island, today, tomorrow, the two hottest days, temperatures come down a little bit on Saturday and then kind of a little bit cool on Sunday with a high near 20 degrees before they come back up towards the low to mid 20s through much of next week. Stephanie.
Thanks, Kaylin. We'll check in with you a little bit later for the wake-up weather. But next, we'll head to space with a look at the growing concerns from astronomers over the increase in satellites orbiting Earth. Stay with us.
Mornings with Aaron and Peter. Join us all this week for the $1,000 Minute with Atlantic Superstore.
Celebrating 40 years and giving you $200 just for playing this week.
It's hard not to see the significant increases in space activity right now. We recently saw the Artemis 2 mission, and there are weekly launches into space. There are even more than 10,000 satellites orbiting the Earth, with more expected. But there are some concerns from astronomers. Joining us to discuss this and more is St. Mary's University astrophysicist Rob Thacker. Thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure.
So, Rob, we have heard a bit about the impact of satellites on the work of astronomers, but can you explain to us what is the concern?
I mean, it's literally that all the satellites going above us are getting in front of the things that we want to study. And so normally you think when you look up, oh, I can see them moving, that's not a problem. But we take long exposures, so over time you literally increase the size of the object as it goes across. And so you can see pictures now where there's just crisscrosses all over things, and we can't really use it.
Mm-hmm. And so the satellites, we know they are helping with better communication in a lot of ways. But what are the downsides to that?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting to look at the different use cases for satellites, right? Communications is the big deal. Like Starlink is the one thing a lot of people will have heard of. Literally satellite internet up there, down. But there are lots of other things going on as well. Like literally Starlink is being used in military applications. I don't think a lot of people saw that happening. So on top of that, there's surveillance going on as well. So there's a lot of things that we can do from orbit that are really sort of like driving all of the economics that we're seeing around it right right now.
And astronomers and satellite makers, they have worked together in the past, we know this, to reduce the problem. But can you tell us, there was a new report highlighting what's kind of changed or what's different now?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of reason why I'm here today, because there's been a new paper that's come out with a deep analysis. There have been a series, but this is the latest one that's been done, literally taking into account some of the projections that we've seen recently, such as like 1 million satellites, which is crazy when you think about it. But what we've really come to learn is really it's going to be very, very difficult for us to carry on doing astronomy when we have more than 100,000 satellites orbiting the Earth. And that's a huge problem, because we've invested a lot of money in telescopes, right? Like millions and millions of dollars, and now we're looking at a scenario where potentially in a few years' time, we won't be able to use them.
And what about, you sort of touched on this here, but the challenges of coordinating so many satellites in orbit, and is there a risk to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there is this concept called Kessler syndrome, which is literally people who remember the movie Gravity. There was an accident and there was a debris field that came through. Kessler syndrome is that, but what happens if that debris field hits other things, which hit other things, which hit other things? And there are very real concerns about that. Actually, a colleague who's been on this show has spoken about this before. There's something called the crash clock, which is if suddenly we couldn't move the satellites around, how long would it take before there was a collision? That's now down to about 3 days. So seriously, we're moving them around to stop them colliding with one another. At this point, in the future, it's going to be an even shorter clock. So that's pretty serious.
Yeah, so with that too, there's this issue or concern with data centers in space. And is this something, is this possible? Is this feasible?
Wow, I mean, there's so many questions around this, even like the fundamental physics of building a data center in orbit. But Elon Musk's SpaceX submitted a proposal for 1 million data centers, each about a ton. So not like the big data centers you and I know in the big buildings, but literally sort of like a group of, or swarm of 1 million of these things. The reality is that's so far beyond anything that we've thought about in terms of the number of satellites. There are real issues like, how do you deorbit? How do you bring those things down? They're going to burn up, and that's 1 million tons of stuff that you're putting into the atmosphere, right? And that's even before we consider the design of these things, which are really a tricky problem in and of itself. So I've got a feeling this one probably isn't going to go anywhere, but there are some interesting use cases for putting data centers in orbit, but whether we need 1 million of them, that's another question altogether.
And where do you see things going in the future? It seems like things have moved so quickly already just in the last several years or decades even, but where do you see things going now?
I mean, it's literally taken the entire astronomy community by surprise. I mean, a few years ago, we knew more satellites were coming, but we never thought anyone would ever pitch like 1 million satellites. And so it looks like it's a race, right? But it's a new race with commercial aspects to it, which is very different from where in the past we had exploration, governments working together, international treaties and things like that. Now we've got a race of companies trying to get the better of one another, and it's kind of difficult to see that really ending up well unless the UN steps in or is there some kind of international coordination on this. So a lot of us are sort of like biting our fingers a little bit about what's going to happen with this over the next few years, because right now it's not good for astronomy, and while we've got a little bit of change, the future, well, we're not going to be high up there on the list of things that people care about at the end of the day.
Well, Rob, we will have to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for being here.
Always a pleasure.
And Rob Thacker is an astrophysicist at St. Mary's University. We'll take a short break now. Stay with us.
Murphy's Logic is brought to you by Kent Building Supplies. Look what we've built together. The opinions expressed in this segment are solely those of the commentator. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of this station, CTV News, Bell Media, or its employees.
Tonight, Steve Murphy has some thoughts on trade. All eyes are focused on CUSMA, but are there opportunities to help Canadian industries here at home? Here's Steve.
There's good reason to be concerned about Canada's free trade deal with the United States and Mexico. The current U.S. administration, which is to say Donald Trump, is interested in neither free trade nor a deal. They or he want a win, an arrangement that benefits the United States. Canada wants to renew the current agreement, presented when Mr. Trump signed it, by the way, as the greatest ever. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. But forget all the talk about negotiation. President Trump doesn't believe in give and take. This is likely to end up a take it or leave it proposition. We just don't have much of any control over what he says or does. But we do have control over what we do, and lately we haven't been doing nearly enough. This time last year, the Prime Minister and the Premiers, with elbows up, were talking about tearing down the barriers to interprovincial trade in our own country. Yes, there has been some progress since then, but there is a lot more to be done. As former New Brunswick Premier Frank McKenna said in a recent episode of the Wonk podcast with Amanda Lang, we are not as agile as we're going to need to be. And he cites regulations and agencies that are still protecting small vested interests. One example, most of the provinces missed the May 31st deadline to bring in direct-to-consumer sales of beverage alcohol across provincial lines. We can blame Donald Trump for our trade problems with the United States, but we have no one but ourselves to blame for the lack of free trade in Canada. And again, in the words of Frank McKenna, we need to smarten the hell up. I'm Steve Murphy.
That brings us to tonight's web poll, and we are asking, is your province doing enough to remove barriers to interprovincial trade? Your options are yes, much progress has been made, or no, much more needs to be done. Visit ctvnewsatlantic.ca to weigh in. In the Lifeline tonight, cutting your risk of having a heart attack and the importance of staying extra hydrated if you're on specific medication. Here's CTV's Suzette Belliveau with more in health and medical news.
If you're a woman wanting to cut your risk of having a heart attack, start lifting weights. According to a new study of more than 117,000 women who did resistance training, researchers found women who resistance trained at least 2 hours each week lowered their heart attack risk by almost 45%. And it lowered risk of major cardiovascular disease by 20% compared to women who did no resistance training. Cardiovascular disease is currently considered the leading cause of death in women around the world. The study was published in JACC, the flagship journal of the American College of Cardiology. A new health concern is emerging as temperatures continue to rise. Health experts say it's important for everyone to take extra precautions, but even more so for people who are taking GLP-1 weight loss medications, which increase the risk of dehydration.
Water intake is extremely important. At least 64 ounces or more a day is super, super key to any weight loss journey. And then on top of that, in the summertime, we want you to be closer to 80 ounces. If we don't have adequate hydration, we can actually become sick, have a heat stroke.
With more people expected to be taking these medications, medical professionals are emphasizing the importance of staying hydrated, limiting time in the sun, and watching for signs of heat-related illness. If you've had or are at risk for a heart attack or stroke, a medication to lower cholesterol could help protect you. Statins are medications that lower your bad or LDL cholesterol. According to the National Institutes of Health, these drugs reduce how much cholesterol your body makes, helping the liver remove more LDL cholesterol from your blood. And less cholesterol in your blood means less buildup in your arteries. Doctors prescribe statins to prevent heart attack and stroke in people who have already had these problems and for those at higher risk. While safe for most people, side effects and serious problems can happen, including muscle pain and elevated liver enzymes. Statins work best alongside healthy habits like diet and exercise, not in place of them. With health and medical news, I am Suzette Belliveau for The Lifeline.
Time now for The Scene. Celebrating 47 years, the Royal Nova Scotia International Tattoo kept to tradition and joined the Canada Day Parade in Halifax. CTV's Brianne Foley peeks behind the curtain on opening day to see what this year's entertainment looks like.
Kicking off Canada Day week, the Royal Nova Scotia International Tattoo blends history and culture once again.
It's an opportunity to really represent that college and represent Australia more broadly. The tattoos give the school students the ability to move into becoming the alumni band and see a vision for them where they actually can continue to play beyond year 12.
For those involved, this year is extra special.
Elbows up Canada, for sure, for sure. Even when we're playing, we think about the elbows up. Staying in Canada and being able to play in Canada was really important to us, especially this year.
It's actually great to be back here. I haven't been back to Canada since I performed in the Nova Scotia International Tattoo back in 1996.
It's always so special to be a part of and just to contribute to like Nova Scotia's legacy and the show and carrying that on.
As always, the family-friendly event has more than 150 volunteers and over 1,200 performers.
I created the children's choir in 1984, and my daughter Kate is continuing the tradition this year with the children's choir, and she's conducting the scene that they're doing this year.
And this year is a family affair.
It means a lot to carry on my mother's legacy, continuing the choir myself, and continuing the next generation. Having Generation 3 in it now is really special, and it makes me emotional.
That we sing in front and all together.
And being part of this piece of history is important in many ways.
It's practice for what I want to be when I'm older.
What we really love about it is the East Coast, West Coast connection, and being able to stay in Canada on Canada Day and play the parade here today was a real honor for us to be able to do that on the East Coast.
The tattoo runs daily until July 5th at 7 p.m. on Thursday and Friday, with matinees on Saturday and Sunday starting at 2 p.m. Brian Foley, CTV News, Halifax.
Thanks, Bree. Still ahead, our business report and Kaylin's hot and humid wake-up weather. We'll be right back. On the markets, the Dow ended the day up 594 points. Meanwhile, the U.S. added only 57,000 jobs in June, about half of what was expected. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has more on that.
Still, the U.S. unemployment rate fell to 4.2%. That's because fewer Americans were looking for work. The labor participation rate measures the working age population who are employed and those looking for work. In June, it fell to 61.5%. Excluding the COVID years, it is the lowest rate in about 50 years. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is up to 70.50. West Texas Intermediate up to 68.47. Western Canadian Select is down over $2 to 53.12. And the TSX ended the day up 109 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Time now to go to the weather deck with a look at your very muggy wake-up weather for Friday.
It is very warm and muggy out here on the weather deck at the moment. Our viewer picture for tonight, though, is going to take us into the southwest of Nova Scotia, the Lake LeMerchant area. This was sent in by Pernell Verheg. I want to thank Pernell very much for taking the time to take this picture. And this was from yesterday, Canada Day at the time, quite calm. But Pernell was driving back to the Halifax area this morning and ran into one of those early morning thunderstorms that were making its way across parts of Nova Scotia to start the day, and some heavy downpours with that. Of course, other parts of the Maritimes got into some thunderstorms and downpours as we went through the day, and right now still some thunderstorm activity south of Fredericton headed towards the Bay of Fundy coastline. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritime region, we can expect partly cloudy conditions and fog patches to start the day. Morning temperatures already in the high teens and low 20s. That's early morning, and then in the afternoon it's hot and humid, a lot of highs in the high 20s and low 30s. And feeling into the high 30s and some low 40s because of the humidex. Stephanie.
Thanks, Kaylin. Finally for us tonight, Saturday is, of course, Independence Day, and Americans like to travel for the 4th of July. In fact, new estimates give us a look at just how many will be traveling south of the border in the coming days. AAA projects a mind-boggling 72.2 million people will travel at least 50 miles for Independence Day weekend. That number tops last year's record. Nearly 6 million U.S. travelers are expected to fly, and nearly 5 million will be on buses, trains, or taking cruises. And for those renting cars in the States, Hertz expected to have its busiest pickup day today. And that will do it for us tonight. Callum Smith is back here at 11:30. But for local news anytime, visit ctvnewsatlantic.ca. It's your home for news. From all of us here tonight, thanks for watching and have a great night.
CTV News, the Maritimes' #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.